Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week here at the RGM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney, that guy from RGM. How are you doing? You all right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a podcast where we delve into the grassroots music industry and beyond and find interesting people within it. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another guest for you on his hands today. We've got Richard Smedley. Hi, mate.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, nice to meet you. Another Geordie on his hands today.
Oh, well, nearly.
Go on, go
I'm
on.
I'm I'm more of a smoggy me.
How are you? Fair enough.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously playing in Andrew's band,
Okay.
proud Geordie. I
Yeah.
think that's about as much as he would let into his band. If I was a Mackham, I would never have got the gig.
So is a smoggy more Hartlepool then?
Middlesbrough, but
Middlesbrough, right? Okay.
yeah,
Oh, okay. Borough lad. Borough lad. Oh, no.
yeah, Borough lad. We have
Oh,
actually, me and him have been to a Middlesbrough match actually,
oh,
which he
okay.
probably doesn't tell many people about. He tried to like keep a bit of a low profile when we went. But we have been to a Middlesbrough match before, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, thanks for joining us today, mate. We do like to delve into the grassroots music industry, and you've had a big, massive life as a session musician and playing with all these big people. We'll come to Andrew in a bit. We'll park him for a bit. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear about your life in music and all the different directions that being a session musician takes you. Really. So if people haven't heard of you yet, Richard, mate, introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I mean, like we said, we'll park Andrew, but I think a lot of
Yeah.
people will know me as the bloke
Yeah.
who stands at the back of the stage when Andrew's playing.
Yeah.
But I'm a session musician, multi-instrumentalist session musician, and I've done that for as long as I can remember, probably longer than I'd like
Yeah.
to say as well.
Yeah.
And kind of done a little bit of everything with it. I've done the original stuff and the smaller gigs and the
Mm.
proper like, indie sticky floor stuff.
Yeah.
And I've done the weddings and the corporate events and the studio work and everything like that across like a full range really. So
Yeah.
it's been a really full range of session stuff. A few different instruments and everything like that. It's good. Kind of just fell into it as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see people have a career in music. You don't have to be the person at the front to have
Yeah.
a full fulfilled life in the music industry. So we had a little chat before starting this, and you watched the Jessica Greenfield interview that we did, who's in Noel Gallagher's band, and a session musician for Noel. And there's so many stories that goes on behind the scenes of those people that are top of the poster type thing, aren't they? They must be an interesting life.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. And like I think I mean I've definitely tried to do the whole be the
Yeah.
person at the top of the poster
Oh,
thing as
right. Okay.
well and like fronted bands and that kind of thing. But I think you just find your groove a little bit as
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
as a session player. And there definitely comes a point where you think I just want to take a step back and
Yeah.
I know what I'm good at and I know what they're good at
Yeah.
and I know that I'm better served doing this. And like saying about Jessica, there's so many similarities. You hear so many different
Yeah.
session musicians tell the same story about I've done a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and through doing that, I met this person, and then I met that person, and it's kind of a really well trodden path as well. And it's so much fun because it's kind of different every time as well.
Why do you feel more comfortable in the position that you're in now than being that person up front?
Like weirdly, I feel by taking that step back, you have a little bit more control over what you're actually
Mm.
doing, which seems a little bit counterintuitive that you would
Oh,
think if you're the person at the front, you've got full control, but it kind of just allows me to really focus in on what I'm actually trying to do. And as I've done more and more session work and kind of got more responsibility, if you like, in different projects and everything, I've kind of taken on some of that additional responsibility and used some of those skills that I've learned over the years by touring and playing different gigs
yeah.
to just make an entire set, an entire project, whatever it is, make that a little bit better. So I feel like I'm having like more influence by
Yeah.
taking a step back, weirdly.
Oh, nice, nice. So let's rewind a little bit then. So let's go back before. How did you get into music from the start? Talk us through your life in Middlesbrough
My
before you
journey.
picked up a guitar. Yeah, yeah, let's do the whole cheesy journey thing.
Do you know what? It's like one of those stereotypical stories of like I can't really remember a time
Yes.
before I was playing music. And my
Right.
dad plays piano.
Hmm.
He's not like kind of classically trained or anything, but he always just he loved playing and he was in bands when he was younger and everything like that. And I think maybe when he was younger, his mum wasn't overly keen on him playing in the house.
Okay.
because it was too noisy. So he always encouraged me to do the opposite and just play,
Yeah.
and play, as many instruments and as many different styles and all of that. Like always encouraged me to do that. And I think I was maybe about 8 or 9, maybe 9 or 10, maybe when I started getting lessons for the first time.
Yeah.
I started getting piano lessons. And then since then, like I say, I can't really remember a time when music wasn't like the main part of my personality in a way. Like I was the music kid at school. I was whenever I meet people now, it's the first thing that comes up is
Yeah.
music. And so I did that for a few years, and then I got to kind of into my teenage years. I actually started to get a little bit more
Mm.
rebellious and everything, and picked up a guitar instead and started playing the drums and that kind of thing. Um, and then it was even then, without realizing it, I think I was meeting people and starting to play music with people, and you think you're just like having a little jam. And then, 5, 10 years later, those people come back around and you do something with them. Um, in fact, my first ever professional gig I did, first ever paid gig,
Yeah.
was with a drum teacher that I knew. And I must have been maybe 17, 18, something like that.
Mm.
And he'd booked a corporate gig in London at a restaurant award show at like some big fancy hotel, like the Savoy or something like that. And he took about 6 or 7 of us down, all like 15 to 18-year-olds in a minibus, went down to London and played this gig on djembe drums.
Mm.
So it's just a lot of young lads playing djembe drums. But it was amazing because we had a dressing room and there was catering there, and
Mm.
it was restaurant awards. So it was like catering was amazing. And we left with, 75 quid in our pockets. And it was like, this is
Nice.
amazing. I'll just do this every day. This is great. Um, it turns out it's a little bit more difficult than doing that every day, but it was like a really nice introduction. And you meet these people along the way, and you don't necessarily realize that there's going to be opportunities here and there that are going to come through meeting those people.
Mm. Yeah, so it's when I think of session musician, I just think of, I don't know, just like people in a studio and just being in a studio. But I can't see, I can't picture in front of me what the journey is to get into it, and how do you get a reputation to be picked by other artists as well. How do you work? How did you work through it, and how did you get your name out there to?
Do you know what? It's just being there's two things, and they both come into play.
Yeah.
You've just got to be absolutely relentless with doing it. You've
Yeah.
got to, at the start, it's that old thing about picking up any gig,
Mm.
and doing any gig. And the first ones you do are going to be really shit, but you just got to keep doing them.
Mm.
And particularly as a young session musician in the Northeast and other parts of the country as well, there's a lot of those bigger gigs that they're tied up. People have done like the big New Year's Eve party for 10 years and they're going to get the gig again. It's
Yeah.
really hard to kind of muscle your way in there.
Mm.
But you've just got to kind of be there until the day when someone can't do it, and then you step in, and build up a reputation as being someone who can be called upon, I guess.
Yeah, nice.
So that when the opportunity does come, they know that they can trust you to go and do it. But you've definitely got to have a little bit of luck as well.
Yeah.
You can there's players who just relentlessly play for years and years and years, and that kind of bigger opportunity never presents itself. So there's a little bit of right place, right time, but there's also just working hard at it.
Yeah, there's no easy way, is there, to get the Holy Grail of being able to earn a few quid in the music industry. It's you just have to graft, don't you? There's no other way about it, and network and be nice and don't be a dick and all.
It's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
There's so many musicians you meet, and like,
Yeah.
they're just a bit of a dick sometimes. It's like, well, you're never gonna get the call back.
Yeah.
You're never gonna get the call back. So just be nice to people, be fun, and enjoy it as well. Like you're saying, you've got to graft. You do have to graft, but you've got to learn to like enjoy that part of it as well. You've got to learn to enjoy the 2-hour drive to a wedding gig.
Mm.
That you feel a little bit soulless sometimes, and then the 2-hour drive back. You've got to learn to enjoy that side of it as well.
Yeah, well, I do speak to a lot of people that, and particularly a lot of bands that like the idea of being a full-time musician, but deep down, they're not going to be able to hack it. They're not going to be able to commit that much effort to it sometimes, and those people frustrate me a lot in the industry.
Yeah, I've seen it with
a mile off, can't you?
Yeah, I've seen it with more with like originals projects I've been in when someone gets really excited about doing a tour or something, and it might be a small tour,
Mm.
and then they get to like day 3 in the van, and you can see that it's like really starting
Yeah. I want
to
my
wear them
mum.
down a little bit. Yeah. The van's starting to smell and like no one's really showered properly and it's all of that kind of thing. Like you can tell that it just wears down people a little bit. So you've got to have a bit of a thick skin.
Yeah, definitely. Well, tell us a little bit about your. What did you do solo stuff or you were fronting a band? Tell us a little bit about type
Little
of
bit of
project.
both.
Yeah.
Little bit of both. Yeah, I've fronted some bands.
Did you wear the sunglasses and stuff inside and all that kind of stuff? Did you go for it?
You know, no, but I definitely went through a skinny jeans phase.
Okay, well that's fair enough. Did you
Yeah,
stand in front
yeah.
of the
I think I was.
wall with a leather jacket on?
Yeah, I think I was trying to look like Serge.
Right.
And
Okay. Fair enough.
never quite worked. I had the rock star shoes and the skinny jeans, and like just didn't quite work for me that. But yeah, like fronted a few bands and played in a few other kind of originals, indie bands and stuff like that. Kind of how I came to meet Andrew again, like
Yeah.
going back to knowing people, and a few years later, these other opportunities arise just from being around. But I toured with other original bands and
Yeah.
done festival circuit and all of that kind of thing. And I feel like there was opportunities in some of those, but you kind of knew as well that there was maybe a little bit of a ceiling. And that's one of those things as a musician where you got to be really honest with yourself, and you got to enjoy what you're doing at that point. But you know there's
Yeah.
probably going to be an end point.
Yeah. It's hard to be honest with yourself sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, well, especially when you're in that creative industry, and
Yeah.
the whole point of it is like showing off a little bit, and it's really hard to like turn around and be like, yeah, this might be the limit of where we're at. It's
Yeah.
not a conversation that many people have, but it's a good conversation to have. Like if you're in a band or something like that, a really honest conversation to have. Maybe do it in the van on the way back from a gig after a few beers, and you can have that conversation about where do we want this to go.
Yeah. It's fascinating, and it's okay for a band to take a bit of pressure off yourself and just say out loud that you're just doing it for the love of it, and you're not
Yeah,
you're not striving to be a fucking arena band or whatever
yeah,
your ambitions are. Just even just playing that slightly bigger attended gig over there, just take the pressure off yourself and just enjoy it, and just enjoy the fact that you're gonna play a few songs. Your mates are all going to come down with you. You'll have a good drink after, and you'll have a good night. There's nothing wrong with just like enjoying just having
enjoying it.
fun, is there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's nice to have a bit of ambition as well,
Oh
particularly
yeah,
like
yeah,
young.
yeah.
I love seeing like younger bands
Mm.
when they, like 17, 18-year olds
Yeah.
who just come along and they've got like the whole world of ambition there, and they just want to try everything and like keep doing that. Just try everything. You're gonna fuck a load of stuff up. You're gonna play a load of shit gigs. You're gonna play like gigs to nobody. Keep doing that, and then it gets to a point where you have to like zone in on things a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, somebody that we all know, Harriet Rose,
Yes.
she reminded me today that 10 years ago to the day, I put Harriet on her first ever gig, the first ever gig that I ever put on as RGM
Oh,
at the
no way.
Sheffield 10 years ago today. And she put it on the socials, and I've been sharing it about and winding up a bit because it's kind of how RGM started. We needed a place to have interviews. So we started a website. We put interviews on a website, and it turned into RGM organically and that kind of stuff. And it was just nice to look back at that time because I interviewed Harriet 10 years ago. I've still got the footage somewhere. I've put it on a fan group on Facebook, but she keeps hiding it. I'm sure she keeps hiding it. But it was just so nice to look back over 10 years and having that relationship from just knowing Harriet as a mate for all these years and just seeing how well she's doing now because she has played every gig under the sun. She has grinded. She has done all those toilet venues. She's played to no one loads of times.
Yeah.
And now when you see her just announced supporting Reverend the Makers in the big Sheffield gig, and she's doing all this touring, and she's up in Newcastle with Michael, just fucking loving life.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to see that kind of stuff. I love that.
Yeah. She's great as well. She
Yeah.
supported Andrew a couple of times. I'd seen her
Yeah.
there. But then I went to see, it might have been earlier this year. Honestly, my concept of time now after like touring,
Yes.
just thought it could have
Yeah.
been the end of last year, could have been the
Okay.
start of this year.
Yeah.
But I went to see her in Newcastle,
Yeah.
and like I feel like a stage presence is just
Yeah.
totally grown since the first time I
Yeah.
saw. I think she supported us in London the first time.
Yeah.
And she was fantastic. But like now, particularly with the band behind her as
Yeah.
well, It's just like you can see an artist that's grown. And again, like you say, it's just from doing loads and loads of gigs,
Yeah.
just growing it organically over time.
I went to see her at
Um,
Tramlines on big stage. I was just like, I was still a bit hungover. She came out to her and Michael came out to the gig before that I did in fucking Parrot, and the day after she were playing. And I was really hungover the next day. And I was just watching her on this big stage, and I'm like, I think I might have a little weep here. We're just so proud of her. You know, when when you've known someone from being an egg and they're just like blossom
yeah.
artists. It's my favorite thing about, telling stories and doing this podcast and sharing things with people. It's my favorite thing to see that.
Speaking of hungover, Carl,
Oh,
right? Before this,
yeah.
I was listening to your podcast from Bridlington Spa.
Yes, the zone live by the sea t-shirt on. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Guilty.
I had to keep turning it down when you were speaking
Yes, I know. I tried to
and then
sort the
turning
audio,
it
but
back up.
it was just too difficult. It was too difficult. I did apologize on that podcast for being a bit leery, and I got done off a few people that night. But hey ho,
I mean, it's a sign of a
enjoy
good
it.
gig, I guess, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was a lovely weekend, and
That's
yeah,
a great venue as well.
this is the genius marketing zone. With
No idea where they've got that idea from.
I know, yeah, tell me about it. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, have a look on YouTube. I'm wearing a Zone t-shirt. It's like a This Feeling t-shirt. It says Zone and the Oasis logo. I just thought that were I just think from that, they were selling loads of them and all. It was just such a good marketing idea.
Perfect timing as well, isn't it?
Perfect timing, yeah, it was brilliant.
Did you get tickets, Carl?
What's that? No, what for Oasis? No, I didn't.
Yeah. No, neither did I.
I'm going to try and get a press one with RGM, but that'll be nightmare. I think loads of people will have overpaid, overpaid definitely, but I think a lot of people will have bought too many. So I think there'll be some flying about next year. Hopefully, just from people because everybody's family just all went online, didn't they? So loads of people will have bought too many. They'll have all bought 4 each or something, and there'll be spare.
Yeah, it's like 16 tickets.
Surely there'll be things flying about. So that's. I even tried to look on because they've just announced the American side tour thing. So I even put my name for that and didn't get an email. So I thought, I might just go to LA or something and just.
We had a show that the day of the pre-sale, we had a show, and the photographer Dennis had a pre-sale code.
Yeah.
And we was sat in the pub before this gig, and he got on and he was in the queue, and it was like, I'm gonna get this. And it took him obviously ages, and he finally got down. He's trying to get tickets, I think, for Wembley. By the time he got into the front of the queue, all gone.
Yeah, I got to that stage, and it's so frustrating, but I think it'll just sort itself out. I'm not beating myself up too much about it. I'm a bit annoyed because I've seen that band loads of times over the years, but I suppose it's someone else's turn. I suppose that's the way you can look at it. Why not?
Well, I guess so. Yeah. I
don't really get. They've got loads of money to make, haven't they?
Well, yeah, I don't really get that whole thing about gatekeeping Oasis as well. I think it's going to be a great crowd of people who've seen them before, people who've never seen. Like you see Liam's crowds, and there's a load of young people there.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be a good mix.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so you did your own thing for a bit. What made you? What was it? Was there one deciding factor that made you take a step back and think I might go a different route in the industry? Looking back.
So I sort of took my foot off the gas a little bit with doing this sort of nuts and bolts session work. I got to the point of weddings and bars and corporate events where it was just I couldn't really do any more of them. And I focused on a couple of originals projects. And one of them was really, really good. Band sounding amazing. We started doing some good gigs. And then it just kind of fell apart. The band sort of fell apart, and people wanted to do other things, and it never really got anywhere. And I thought maybe that's the last. That was really good. Maybe that's the last sort of chance to make something originally. And so I went back into doing a lot of the session stuff. And I think having that gap, having that little break, I found a little bit more love in it again, of just going and playing music with a little bit less pressure on yourself, really.
Yeah.
And playing with different people all the time and all of that kind of thing. So I sort of regained my love for just going out and playing tunes. So, but then, I mean, it sort of really kicked off again when I got involved with Andrew, which was through a mate of mine, Davey.
That's it. Let's do the story. We've held back enough. How did you
do this? Let's do the story of how we met. Yeah. So there was a mate of mine. I was in a band called which you might know, called Detroit Social Club,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
who had been a band previously, and Johnny Bond, who went on to play in Catfish and the Bottlemen, he was the original guitarist. But the singer Davey, we became really good mates, and he brought the band kind of back together.
Yeah.
And I went and played keyboard in that band. And we did another album and did a little tour and did the festivals and everything. And then Lee knew Davey through, you know, being in Newcastle
Mm.
and through the music scene in Newcastle and everything. And Davey's a really good producer as well. So when Andrew got his deal, Lee got in touch with Davey. Can you produce a couple of demos? Davey got in touch with me. Can you come and play piano on them?
Nice.
So I went down, met this young, 19-year-old lad. I was like, yeah, pretty good. He's got a decent voice, decent tune. One-off session. Didn't think much of it. And then it wasn't until a year later where we did another song, and then a year after that when I actually sort of fully joined the band. So that was like a nice little introduction to what Andrew was doing. But again, at the start, it was just another session for me, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't really think much of it until sort of got fully involved with the band.
Mm. Well, your relationship with the band as the musical director as well for it is that like a job promotion, that kind of stuff? Do you get like a do you get like a raise and that kind of stuff for being a musical director? What's the hierarchy of the session musician behind the
Just
scenes?
get like an extra pat on the back at the end.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
No, it's great. Like I think, like when the band was put together, it was very like even before I joined, it was still kind of that DIY sense of doing things. And then when we added the keyboard stuff and we started to do a little bit more, I said to Andrew, I was like, there's more we can do with this set. We can start to add other elements. We can make this more of a show rather than 14 good tunes that you just decide which order you want to play every night. Like we can really make this into a show. And that we were kind of having that conversation right at the time when the Louis Tomlinson tour kind of came in. So it was the perfect time to sort of merge that all together, and make it more of a show and just kind of make more of it as well. And he rises to anything you kind of throw down in front of him. So he was definitely up for the challenge of that. And over the last sort of 18 months, certainly the last year, I think I've been able to like grow that trust as well, where he just trusts me to say, there's a set, you do what you need with it, and I trust you to do it, and I'll just go out on stage and be a star kind of thing.
So what mechanically is the role of a musical director then? Because talk us through all the different elements that you bring to the table as this musical director.
Yeah. So I when it came to building the set, initially we added some like extra track to the songs, and we were all in ears. So we had click going on certain songs and everything, just to kind of bring it all together. So I put all of that together with Andrew. At first, I think we had like 4 tunes on the first tour that we did it, and so like the strings on Dream for a Moment, where we wanted them in there. But then when we went to America this year, the full set was kind of properly put together, from the intro right till the end of the set. We're all on ears, we're all on click. They've got my voice in their ears for like most of the set about like certain things that are happening and like cues for songs and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of put all of that together, but wanted to build a proper show as well. So Andrew would come to me and say, this is what I want from the show. These are songs that I definitely want to play. Yeah. These are some songs that I definitely don't want to play. And then I kind of built it around that. And the whole sort of goal of Waiting for the Rain tour, particularly this year, has been to kind of show everything that he can do, that he's learned kind of over the last 18 months. He's worked with so many massive names, and he's like a sponge. He just takes things in off all of those people, and I just wanted to make sure that we can kind of put that across, communicate that to a crowd. So like the first 5 songs of the set, because you know what he's like, you've seen him, he likes to have a bit of a chat with the crowd sometimes.
Yeah.
And so the first 5 songs was like, we're not gonna talk, we're gonna show you without the guitar, we're gonna show you with the electric guitar, we're gonna have a really big acoustic number. It's going to be the full range of what Andrew can do, before he's even said a word to the crowd.
So did that go to shit straight away then?
No, I think
Okay.
there might have been a couple where he talked, but you know
Okay.
what? He stuck to it. But
Yeah.
that's like I say, we've built up that trust over the last
Yeah.
couple of years, over the last 5 years, really have known each other, but certainly the last couple of years. And when you drive around America in a hire car for like
Yeah.
8 weeks,
Yeah.
you get to know each other really well.
Yeah.
So we just trust each other. He trusts me to put together a set and make sure everything's right and that the track's going to be right and the click's going to be right. And I trust him to go out and deliver it, really.
Yeah, so we might as well talk about that tour then, because the last time I had a chat with Andrew was he was doing his solo stuff with the band, and we had a chat with you, and you were all on the bus and that. I think, yeah, I think did you have some secret on him or something like that, and you were winding him up or something?
Oh, did I have a secret? I've got loads of secrets on him. Don't worry.
Oh no, no, I mean, when we can you remember that bit when I was speaking to him when he were on the bus?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we were in
His solo one.
I think we were in Seattle or something like that.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
do remember.
Vancouver, Canada.
Was it Vancouver? Yeah,
I've remembered something. That's new for me. Nice.
that was Vancouver. That
Yeah.
was the day after we'd left Dennis at the border,
Ah, yeah, yeah,
incidentally,
yeah. Nice.
photographer, which was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and everyone had to pile off the bus in the immigration bit. And when everyone got back on the bus, everyone just jumped in the bunks. But Dennis had gone to the toilet. And we suddenly heard this whistle and this shout, and we thought immigration were coming to get us, but it was just Dennis running after the van.
That's funny. I do want to ask about some stories, but I know this because it was just you and Andrew, weren't it, when you did the first Louis support
When we
tour?
did the first two, yeah, it was just us two in hire cars driving across America, which was like mad. And it's been over a year now, obviously. So I get
Yeah,
a thing on my phone where it's like you get a little memory or something.
yeah,
And I think only then did it really start to sink in
yeah.
what we actually did. It was really hard to take it all in at the time.
How was it for you, just being in and around the Louis camp and that kind of stuff? How did you settle in and get comfortable in that kind of environment?
It was amazing. I mean, the whole Louis and all of his crew made us feel comfortable from the very first day. And like we'd had a little bit of an introduction to it with the Shepherd's Bush gig that we did the November before that. But we still didn't really know this was a proper tour at this point, and we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't know like, how people were going to take us, where we're just going to be kind of sat in the dressing room all day and then we leave. But everyone was so welcoming, and we made like so many good friends on there from the production team, the catering team, the security, and the band. Like, everyone was amazing for us. Um, I think I probably broke the ice quite well by I say crashing, but crashing the hire car on the very first day.
Okay,
It wasn't a proper crash though. It was just a little bump, but we turned up to the first venue in Chicago. Um, and I've been to America quite a lot, but I'd never driven there.
yeah.
So I'm in the hire car and I'm like proper white knuckling it from the airport to the hotel. Next day, felt all right. Turned up at the venue, and the guy on the gate like gave a little wave, which I thought was like a universal sign for come through. But he was actually saying to his mate, "Can you raise the gate?"
Oh,
So I just
Christ.
went like crashing it. It wasn't too bad, but
Yeah.
like all of like the security team were watching us come in, and like everyone was coming off the buses, and it was like, hi, I've got to drive around America for the next 2 months, and you've just seen me crash the hire car.
And did you stand in for Louis' band as well at some point in it?
I did, yeah. In the Europe show, I did.
Oh, nice.
I stepped in for a gig in Poland, which
Wow.
was mad. But see, at this point, Carl, we'd done 2 months in America.
Yeah.
We'd done about a month in Europe, maybe 2 weeks in Europe, actually, at that point. And like I say, we'd got to know everyone really well,
Yeah.
and we got to know the band really well. So it just felt like going on stage with mates as well.
Yeah.
It was the same kind of feeling as going out with Andrew and the lads,
Yeah.
as going out on that stage. So I could just really, really enjoy it. And was shitting myself, but
Yeah.
it
How'd you
was
learn all the songs that quick? Oh, can
well.
you?
Again, it goes back to that experience of
Yeah.
just years of doing session work, and it's like
Yeah.
you've got a wedding on Saturday, and they want this as the first dance.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing of just you learn how to do it, I guess. And but it was a privilege to stand on stage with them. Like, it was really good.
Yeah. So give us a few more stories of life on tour then.
Oh, I
Pick
mean,
a few out. Pick a few out.
pick a few
People
out. I
love this
mean,
kind of stuff.
I know. I mean, the thing with the last American tour,
Yeah.
there's nothing explosive from it, you see, because everyone got on really well. We had the
Oh.
wine club. I know it's terrible. It's terrible for stories. We had the wine club,
Yes.
which I'm sure you've heard about. Which I've got to say, I do say that I'm a founding member of Wine Club with Rich Baldwin, who's the merch guy.
Mm.
We kind of started it on the UK tour when we had the big bus.
Yeah.
And I think it was like the Six Nations or something was on, and Rich is really into his rugby. And he wanted to watch the Six Nations, so we had a bottle of wine, and then we had another bottle of wine. Nice. It was like, right, this is now Wine Club.
Yeah.
And so everyone got involved in Wine Club. We've got a whole song and everything for it now.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Like official, and you can only be a member if you come and you buy a bottle of wine,
yeah.
and then you join Wine Club and you sing the song.
Yeah.
And then you're into Wine Club. So there's a few nights after Wine Club, I think, when there's probably been a few stories that I can't tell you. But I mean, that US tour that we did as the two of us, again, like when we first went there, I think we said on the plane, this is going to be a unique tour.
Yeah.
Like we're going to have so many things that we do on this tour that we're never going to do again. Even if we go back to America, which we obviously did much sooner than I think any of us thought. Even if we go on another support, we're driving across America, really. Like two lads driving across America with some instruments in the back. And even things like turning up at the Hollywood Bowl.
I was going to ask you about the Hollywood Bowl because I saw Oasis there, and I can remember I can remember seeing the pictures of you guys just setting up before the stage and seeing the view of it's a weird venue in it, the Hollywood.
Yeah,
it's like a big. It feels like you're in like booths and stuff when you're out there.
Yeah, the seats and everything. Yeah, it's like a cinema or something.
Yeah, it's a real strange venue, but really like historic venue. And I can remember seeing Oasis there with Jet and Kasabian a few years ago.
Oh wow!
I just thought, oh, you're on stage there. That must be amazing. Just having all that history that's gone on that stage. Like, I don't know, like what historic things have been on it. Even like Monty.
It's said like Elton John had played there, like
everybody.
Like Elton John had played 15 times or something like that.
Yeah.
It's man, the Beatles and everything. Yeah. But it's weird turning up at a venue like that and pulling up in like a hired Ford. And there's like 4 buses parked there, and you like pull up and you wind your window down. You're like, we're playing here tonight. And you see the security's a bit like, I'm not sure who you are, but I'll just go and check for you. Yeah. But that was an amazing gig. Like to play there, that was one of them. That was a proper bucket list venue for me.
What's it like sound checking and that kind of stuff? Just I'm always thinking there's some magical dust that happens around those type of things that I want to tap into somehow. But at the end of the day, it is another gig, and you are in these surroundings. But I don't know. Can you feel the history? I suppose is the question I'm looking for.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Somewhere like that, you can just feel. I don't know whether it's just the venue itself or whether, because obviously all the crew and everything are in the same position. Whether they've been there and done gigs loads of times, it's still a really iconic place. So there's definitely like an atmosphere when you go to somewhere like that. Or like when we did Forest Hill Stadium in New York, but you get that from smaller gigs as well. You know, it doesn't just have to be a really big place. Like when we did the Mercury Lounge a couple of days after that, and then when we did it again on the headline tour this year, there's a real sort of history there as well. So you get it from the smaller venues too.
Well, a little story about that. I was due to go to that gig because I was getting into New York on that day.
I've heard this, yeah.
Got to the fucking airport. I had to wait over 2 hours to get through. Fucking, I can't swear enough. I'm so annoyed about it. And then really late, I thought we might still be able to do it. Then the traffic to get to Manhattan was just a nightmare. And then we got to the hotel, and the room wasn't booked properly, so we had to fuck about for ages. And then it just weren't possible to get there because it was just too late. So I'm like, I was due. I was like, I was swearing that day because I fancied it. And then I can remember walking past it because we went for a drink around that kind of that part of town. I love that part of town, man. It's just cool as fuck around there. And I saw, that's just growled a bit. So I'd have liked to have seen that, and it's a bit of. It's an annoyance that I couldn't quite get there, but
was that the one last year?
The first one after the Louis tour, the one he did the solo one on his own.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a surreal gig. It
yeah,
was really surreal because like we obviously you sell tickets, but
mm,
you don't know, you never know until you're actually in the room with everyone
yeah.
what it's going to be like. And it
Did
was
you
just
did you ever get the experience of the Louis fans? Because they are a different breed, aren't they? Louis fans. They are the most passionate people in the world, and and can be quite intimidating. I would think just by seeing some
yeah,
reactions to just anybody that mentions him online, I suppose, and they're a fan of One Direction or whatever, and they followed him into his solo career. It does seem like a bit of a minefield, that audience sometimes.
yeah, they're so passionate about everything within in that world, and
Mm.
like we took a step into it, I guess, um, and did not expect the amazing reaction that we
Yeah,
got. Like we kind of got a glimpse of it with the Shepherd's Bush gig.
yeah,
But the thing with the Shepherd's Bush gig, it was like November or December, and we'd done a show somewhere. I think it was maybe Leicester, and then we'd gone to London, and then we had another show somewhere else the next day. And it was freezing cold,
yeah,
and obviously everyone's been outside since like 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're all wrapped up. And we were the only support, so everyone was in when we played, but we weren't sure whether is that what normally happens or is it
yeah,
just fucking freezing
yeah,
outside? And then when we turned up at Chicago, and it was like really busy when we played. And we were first on support. The Snuts played after us. Amazing band as well, by the way.
yeah,
Um, and it was still like the energy was really there, and people like waving when we just stood side to stage, and it's like this might go all right. And then when we went out on stage, and everyone by the end of it was singing La 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 with war
yeah.
flags and hands in the air and everything. So the reaction was amazing. Um, but it's like it's a lot to take on when you're not used to that, I guess, because it's just instantly into that
Yeah.
world, and um, you've just got to learn really quickly.
You must need to be a good planner as well, because I presume you know what's going to be happening over the next year or two with Andrew. There'll be gaps within that schedule as well. So do you fill that with other stuff, or do you just take that time to have a break, or how
I
do you
mean,
how do you manage your future diary as a session musician?
yeah, I mean, for me, at the minute, obviously we've got the second album, which
Yeah.
is just start recording actually.
Mm.
So there'll be stuff with that, but then I'll kind of fill it in with other things. Coming up to December, there's always loads of like session work that you can
Yeah.
do. Probably take some time to just do a bit of writing myself and do a little bit of stuff for myself because I haven't really had chance to do any of that, and
Yeah.
it kind of refreshes you again, just
Yeah.
to dive into other little bits and kind of do some other musical direction on stuff, whether it's like theatre work or
Right. Okay.
that kind of stuff. There's always loads of stuff around in the winter for that, so it's like it's a good time for me to take a break from that, I guess.
Yeah. Other than Andrew, is there anybody else that you played for that that would like a shout out and we could have a little chat about?
Oh, who else can we chat about? There's a few, but I don't really want to chat about them because
Oh.
it wasn't the best experience. There's
Oh. Okay. Now
a
I'm
couple of names,
intrigued.
but I know maybe we'll save that one for when we're having a prank
Okay.
call.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a Yorkshire band that I worked with that I wasn't particularly keen on, but
Now I'm intrigued. A York.
I know, I knew that would,
Who's
I
going to
knew
be
that would
right?
get
Who's
you.
going to be?
I knew that would get you.
Surely not. There's no bastards in Yorkshire. There is.
I think I found them. I
You
think I
found it,
found
you
them. Yeah, I
found
think I
it.
found the
Okay.
only ones. I'd agree with you
Okay.
normally, but I think I found the only ones.
Oh, right, fine. Well, I'm just gonna sit in
And
silence and
some
see.
answers in the comments.
Yeah.
Answers in
Okay.
the
Yeah.
comments as
Yeah.
well.
Check out the comments. Speculate on there. No, that's a good. You've done this before professionally. So yeah. So it must be nice to have that kind of life where you know you're going to be busy in the next and you know what the schedule is. I presume. I presume
Roughly,
like
yeah,
kind of like
roughly.
planned out like future
But I
gigs,
mean,
the album
even
run.
with that, you've kind of got to, you've got to stay on your toes with things as well,
Yeah.
because schedules can change and gigs can change, and something it can sometimes be really positive
Mm,
where a single or an album takes off, and then suddenly the tour that you thought you had gets pushed back and
yeah.
becomes bigger, and so you've still got to stay on your toes and keep things in motion. You can't just kind of pin your colors to
Yeah.
one project really. And that's why I'm always keep in touch with, certain people who might need, do you need this for a month? Do you need that
Yeah.
for a couple of months? And it's the same as when you start, Carl. It's just
Yeah.
slightly different projects. You've got to keep looking for the work and doing the work, and you
Suppose it's just like being freelance in general, isn't it? You know, you just got
exactly, yeah. You've
you've
just
got
got
to
to
keep speaking to people and keeping your options open and being nice again.
yeah. I think that's the bit that a lot of people don't want to do as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get it, like no one really gets taught how to do it. You just got to throw yourself into it. Like I say, like doing my first professional paid gig at
Yeah.
17, and then after that wanting to do more of that and learning how to go and get a gig and how to talk to a promoter and how to talk to a venue and how to work with other musicians. No one really tells you how to do it. So unless you've got someone who is a bit of a mentor for you,
Yeah.
you've just got to go out and do it and make those mistakes and learn from those mistakes, really.
What's the biggest mistake that you've learned from?
Oh God. Oh God. There is one, and this was when I was like properly starting to try and do more of like the musical director thing. And I was, trying to be the one directing a band and, telling people what to do. And I was going to put together all of these great sets for like corporate events and weddings and stuff like that. And we had a first dance that went really, really badly. I'd got all of like the routing of things wrong, and like power went off on the guitar, and like it was a total fucking. It ended up being like a first dance where you could just hear the drums. It
Nice.
was horrendous, and we'd got the deposit paid before the gig,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the money was going to be paid in cash on the day. So we played that, and then had to go and collect the money
Right.
from the people whose first dance we kind of just ruined. So I think like that was a lesson in saying make sure it fucking works before you
Yeah, yeah,
before you take it anyway.
yeah, yeah.
I
What
think
have you got anything coming up that you can talk about at the minute? Then anything exciting that you're allowed to talk about at the minute?
I mean the album recording with Andrew's
Yeah.
the kind of most the biggest next thing, I guess. I do have a couple of things in December doing some musical direction here and there for like little shows and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and sort of keeping myself moving on that front.
What's the new album like?
I mean, I've I've heard the songs kind of in dressing rooms and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, he's played them relentlessly for the last year or so. And if they're anything like when he plays them acoustically like that, it's going to be a great album. Like there's some really good sing-along tunes in there. Um, like lyrically a different direction to the
Yeah.
first album. Um, but it's great because I mean it's like you hear with a lot of first albums.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of years writing that first one,
Mm.
and then you've got a much more compressed time period
Yeah.
to write the second one. Um, and you can see all of those influences and those things that he's learned, like just coming out in
Yeah.
what he's writing in the second album. He did actually play one of the songs
Mm.
um, in when we were in Poland last week. Is it last week, week before? I can't. Again, I don't have any sense
Yeah.
of time, Carl.
I know.
And it was the first time I'd heard it, and it was one of those moments where you're like, "Is that your song?" I assume that's your
Yeah.
song, but is that someone else's
Yeah.
song? And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's some really good tunes on there. I'm
No.
excited for it.
Yeah,
Excited.
yeah, me too. I've always had a lot of time for that lad, and he's got his head screwed on. I try and be a little bit cheeky with him on interviews and that, but he's too experienced for that kind of stuff.
I know.
He's quite a wily cat, and he's got his head screwed on, that boy.
Yeah, he does. I mean, like I always tell him this from when I first met him because that first session that I did with him, like I say, was treating it like any other time
Mm,
I'd been in a studio, turned up, young lad, guitar, right? Okay, I've kind of seen this act before,
yeah,
sort of thing. But he had a good voice, and it was waiting for the rain that we did as a
yeah,
demo, and yeah, it's a pretty decent song, but he was just totally raw.
yeah.
Um, and it was like, great, okay, we'll see where it goes. If you need a keyboard player, get in touch and we'll work something out. And then when I went back a year later, we did another song. And some of that time had been like through lockdown and everything.
Mm,
And you could see that he'd gone away and he'd thought about it and he'd worked on it and he'd thought about influences and he'd worked on his guitar playing and he'd worked on his like the way that he was singing. And it was like, oh, this could be quite interesting actually, because it's one of those things when people get to a certain point that's seen as like a little bit of success or like a real kind of marker in the career of like getting a record deal or something like that. You do kind of see people just stick to what got them there. And Andrew was definitely like trying to improve on that as well.
What's the biggest thing he's learned from you? That's a good interview.
Great. Do you know what? I think that's a long list, Carl. I'll be honest with you.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
There's
No rush. I'm here all night, mate.
I think the biggest thing is treating it like a proper show.
Right.
It's nice because there's a couple of moments where I've said we should definitely do this, and you can see that he's a little bit skeptical about it, but we've built up that trust where he'll trust me with it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes off, he is kind of gracious and saying that was really good. The best one of them is so Where's My Family Gone was always the end of the set because it's the big, hands in the air. It's the song that a lot of people know him for. And then when we went to America, I was like, we should finish with War Flags. We should do the encore and finish with War Flags. Because I wanted to recreate a moment I had when I went to see Kasabian at the arena in Newcastle. And coming out and walking back to the station, you've got 10,000 people going down the same street. And they were singing the little counter melody from LSF. And everyone was still singing it like half an hour after the gig's finished. And I was like, that's what I want from that. I want everyone spilling out onto the streets of, Minneapolis or Barnsley or wherever we're playing, still singing La La La. And I think we had a couple of moments where people kept singing it after the set had finished. But then when we were in Cologne last week, which was the final gig of Waiting for the Rain, the final gig that a lot of those songs would probably be played, we were sat in the dressing room having a drink afterwards, and there was some fans that stuck around outside, and they were still singing La La La. Nice. About half an hour after the show, and I was like, there you go, you see, that's why you trust us.
Well,
finally got there.
It's I always enjoy speaking to anybody in the music industry because everybody's story is different and everybody you just find your own path sometimes, don't you? You can have all the advice in the world sometimes, but if you're not going to graft and you're not going to go for it and you ain't got talent like yourself, you need that bucket. You need all a mixture of everything, don't you, to get anywhere in the industry. And I love hearing these stories, mate. Thanks for joining us for the podcast.
And you got to pivot on things as well. You've got to. There's different ways to do it. There's different parts of the industry that you can go into.
Yeah.
And there's arts administration, and I worked for a long time in for a musical instrument company. And it might seem like, oh well, I'm not playing every day. It's like, yeah, but I'm spending hours on the phone every day talking to musicians, talking about guitars, talking about guitar strings, talking about drums, whatever it is. And met some people who I've then gone on to work with in a live music setting through those kind of jobs, and traveled the world doing that kind of job as well. So there's more than one way to enter the industry. And if you're new in a band, don't just think that's the only musical thing that you have to do.
Yeah, well, Rich Smedley, thanks for joining us for the podcast. I've really enjoyed getting to know you more and understanding what life's like behind the scenes and the fun that goes on there. Is there anything you want to share with the people watching this that leave them with a final little message? Something cheesy.
I think the final message should be about how your setup for your podcast has improved, because you've
I know. Tell me about it. Tell me about
your little neon light and your TikTok.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, that wooden wall looks great.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so glad that's not fell down yet, because I put that up. I've moved into a new house and I had a bit more space, so I've got my own room now, which I've been we've only been in this house 3 months, and I've just got this new room, and I think I'm there. I think
that's great.
I think I'll still look a bit bleached out. These lights that I've got, I've still not got in position right, so I'm still tweaking stuff. But
look at you talking about lighting.
I know. I've got nothing else better to do with my life than just this shit off Amazon.
The next Joe Rogan.
Pretty well. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, mate. Thanks for joining another edition of the podcast. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Press the subscribe button, do all the things that people say you need to do these days, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, mate. See you soon.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my little studio. We're just having a look around. This is where I record loads of good chats, and you know that already because you've just finished one. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed it, have a look around. Look at this. There's different videos all around here. New videos that you can enjoy too. I promise you it'll be all right. Nice one. Thanks for tuning in again, guys. See you soon.